Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the 12 motorcycles that won't survive 2026. Number 12, Kawasaki Eliminator. The Kawasaki Eliminator entered the market with hopes of bringing back the easygoing cruiser vibe at a lower price, but it seems like it might not make it past 2026. The design looks clean and modern at first glance, but its identity feels caught between a cruiser and a standard bike. It tries to appeal to both worlds, yet ends up not satisfying either group completely. In the US market, where riders value clear purpose and character, that's a tough sell. With a price tag starting around $6,900, it attracts beginners, but the long-term ownership picture isn't convincing. Underneath, the Eliminator runs a 400cc engine borrowed from the Ninja, tuned down for smoother torque. It's fine for city runs and short trips, but it feels strained once you take it on the highway. Most owners report comfort fading after an hour or two in the saddle, especially due to the thin seat and vibrations that creep in past 65 miles per hour. Maintenance costs also don't help its case. Routine service lands around $250 to $300, but parts pricing tends to climb fast since many are shared with the Ninja lineup. Add the fact that its resale value drops quickly, often losing nearly a third of its worth within 2 years. And it's clear why riders are second-guessing it. By 2026, as stronger midsize cruisers from other brands dominate the segment, the Kawasaki Eliminator will likely fade out of the conversation. Number 11, BMW R18. The BMW R18 came in with huge expectations, meant to rival American cruisers with German engineering, but its future beyond 2026 looks uncertain. On paper, it's a premium motorcycle with a bold retro design, yet that same design has become its main problem. The oversized body and low ground clearance make it hard to handle in everyday US traffic, especially for city riders. At a starting price of around $16,000, it aims high, but what riders actually get doesn't justify the cost for long-term use. The R18's massive 1,800cc boxer engine sounds impressive, and yes, it pulls strong torque down low. But that weight over 700 pounds turns every ride into a workout. The big twin shakes more than most expect, and while that adds character to some, it becomes tiring on longer trips. Heat management is another concern. During summer, that huge air-cooled motor sends warmth straight to your legs, making slow rides almost unbearable. Repair and upkeep are expensive. A basic service can cost over $500 at a BMW dealer, and parts rarely come cheap. Owners also complain about limited dealer support outside major cities. By 2026, it will likely be remembered as one of those ambitious cruisers that tried to take on Harley, but couldn't stay practical enough to survive. Number 10, Indian Scout Bobber. The Indian Scout Bobber has that muscular, stripped-down stance that looks perfect for short city rides, but its charm wears off quickly when you look at how it holds up over time. It sits in a crowded space where buyers expect both comfort and durability, and that's where the Scout Bobber struggles. At a starting price of around $12,000, it isn't exactly cheap, yet the build feels more focused on style than long-term function. Power comes from a 1,133cc V-twin that's definitely punchy, but the bike's setup doesn't let it shine. The short wheelbase and stiff ride make highway cruising uncomfortable, especially for taller riders. It handles sharp and quick, but at the cost of ride comfort. The seat is one of the hardest in its class, and there's little wind protection, so longer rides are fatiguing. Once you cross 20,000 miles, vibrations increase and clutch and gear issues start showing up more often than you'd expect from a premium cruiser. Maintenance and repairs are another sore spot. Routine servicing can touch $400 to $500, and parts pricing leans high because Indian focuses on premium branding. The Indian Scout Bobber will likely fade by 2026 as riders shift toward midsize cruisers that actually handle distance and comfort together. Number 9, Harley-Davidson Nightster. The Harley-Davidson Nightster was supposed to modernize Harley's smaller lineup, but it's quickly showing signs that it won't stick around past 2026. At first glance, the bike looks sharp with its compact frame and low stance, but the problem lies beneath that styling. It feels like Harley tried too hard to blend traditional looks with new tech, ending up with a motorcycle that satisfies neither loyalists nor new riders. Priced around $13,500, it promises a lot but delivers inconsistently once you ride it daily. The Nightster runs on a 975cc Revolution Max engine, and while it's strong for its size, it doesn't quite feel like a true Harley. The sound is thinner, the torque curve sharper, and the whole riding experience leans more toward a sport standard feel than a cruiser. That alienates many traditional Harley buyers who want that deep, thumping character. On longer rides, heat from the engine becomes a real issue, especially in stop-and-go traffic. Then there's the cost of ownership. A typical service hovers around $350 to $400, and like most Harleys, accessories and add-ons raise that figure fast. The Nightster had potential, but it doesn't carry the classic Harley soul nor the modern smoothness that newer bikes offer. By 2026, it's likely to disappear quietly from showrooms, remembered more for its confusion of identity than its performance or reliability. Number 8. Triumph Bonneville Bobber. The Triumph Bonneville Bobber is one of those bikes that looks perfect on the showroom floor but starts showing its limits once you live with it. Its design grabs attention with that floating single seat and clean retro lines, but the comfort ends right there. For a motorcycle priced around $14,000, you'd expect something that can handle both city and weekend rides without beating you up. Instead, the Bobber feels stiff, cramped, and heavy for its size, making daily use far from pleasant. The 1200cc parallel twin engine gives strong mid-range pull and the throttle response is sharp. But that same sharpness doesn't mix well with the bike's short wheelbase and minimal rear suspension. On rough roads, it jars the rider constantly, and after about 50 miles, fatigue starts to set in. Over time, the constant vibration at certain speeds adds wear on foot pegs, mirrors, and even electrical connectors. Reliability issues start to creep in once the odometer passes 30,000 miles, especially around the clutch and wiring. Maintenance costs are steep, as with most Triumph models. Expect a routine service to land between $400 and $500, and parts can take time to arrive, depending on where you live. By 2026, the Triumph Bonneville Bobber may no longer justify its high price and rough ride. It's built for style, not for miles. Riders who bought it for its look are realizing it's better parked in a garage than ridden every day. Number 7. BMW R nineT. The BMW R nineT came out strong as a premium retro roadster, blending classic looks with modern tech. But now it's starting to lose its place in the market, and by 2026 it might not survive. With a price tag around $16,000, it tries to appeal to riders who want heritage with performance, yet it feels stuck between nostalgia and practicality. The styling is clean and the build is solid, but its comfort, maintenance cost, and overall value don't hold up for long-term ownership. The air and oil-cooled 1170cc boxer engine has character, but it's not as smooth as newer competitors. Vibration at mid-range speeds makes highway riding less pleasant, and the heavy clutch adds strain in traffic. The suspension setup, though firm and sporty, turns rough on bad roads. It performs best on smooth pavement, but anything else feels punishing. As it racks up miles, oil seepage and minor leaks are common, and once you cross 35,000 miles, the maintenance bills rise sharply. Speaking of upkeep, BMW service isn't cheap. Routine visits can hit $500 easily, and any electronic issue, like the ride modes or instrument cluster, can double that. The R nineT's biggest problem is that it no longer offers enough for its price. It's stylish but impractical, quick but not comfortable, and expensive to keep on the road. By 2026, it'll likely be overshadowed by newer mid-range bikes that deliver the same performance with far less hassle and cost. Number 6. Indian Chief. The Indian Chief was meant to be the brand's return to pure, old-school American muscle, but it's proving too heavy and too expensive to keep up. At a starting price of around $15,500, it's a serious investment, and what riders get in return doesn't justify that cost for long-term use. The design looks strong and timeless, yet that same bulk becomes a constant struggle in real-world riding. Around town, it feels clumsy, and on long rides the weight and heat make it exhausting. Under the tank sits a massive 1,800cc Thunderstroke engine that delivers strong low-end torque, but it also produces plenty of heat and vibration. On highways, it cruises comfortably at first, but once you cross an hour of riding, fatigue sets in fast. Riders often report the clutch feeling heavy and the gearbox clunky, especially in traffic. Once past 30,000 miles, some owners have seen oil leaks, belt wear, and sensor failures, none of which are cheap to fix. Maintenance and parts add to the pain. Routine servicing hovers near $500, and if anything electronic goes wrong, expect that figure to double. Many smaller towns lack Indian dealerships, so waiting for parts or service appointments can stretch for weeks. By 2026, the Indian chief will likely struggle to stay relevant in a market shifting toward lighter, tech-friendly cruisers. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Electra Glide. The Harley-Davidson Electra Glide has been a highway icon for decades, but time is catching up with it fast. Priced around $25,000, it's built for riders who want comfort and tradition, yet it's becoming too heavy, too hot, and too costly to keep on the road. The design hasn't changed much, and what once felt classic now feels outdated. In a market shifting toward lighter touring bikes with better tech and fuel efficiency, the Electra Glide risks fading away by 2026. Its Milwaukee 8 1750cc engine delivers strong torque, but the overall ride is far from effortless. At over 800 pounds, maneuvering it through traffic or tight spaces is a real task. Heat management is another issue. Long summer rides can feel like sitting next to a furnace, especially at low speeds. The suspension is tuned for smooth highways, but once you hit rough roads, the ride quality drops fast. While it's made for long-distance comfort, even that starts to wear thin after a few hours due to seat fatigue and engine vibration creeping in. Maintenance is where the real cost shows. Each major service can run between $500 and $800, depending on location, and genuine parts are never cheap. The Harley-Davidson Electra Glide may carry a proud badge, but by 2026 it'll stand as proof that even legends can't outrun time. Number 4. Yamaha Bolt. The Yamaha Bolt came in as a simple, no-nonsense cruiser aimed at riders who wanted classic style without Harley pricing. But with the way things are heading, it's not likely to survive past 2026. At a starting price of around $9,000, it seemed like a solid value, yet over time the flaws have become hard to ignore. Its compact frame and low stance look great, but once you start riding daily, the shortcomings in comfort, power, and reliability become clear. The Bolt runs a 942cc air-cooled V-twin engine that's smooth at low speeds but quickly runs out of breath on highways. It's fine for short commutes, yet struggles past 70 mph where vibrations and wind fatigue start to wear you down. The suspension is stiff, especially the rear shocks, making every pothole a painful reminder that this isn't a long-distance cruiser. Over time, the engine develops a bit of oil seepage near the heads, and electrical connections can loosen after about 25,000 miles, common issues owners have been pointing out for years. Basic servicing runs around $250, but once you start replacing suspension or electrical components, bills climb fast. The Yamaha Bolt had potential, but it's become outdated in both comfort and performance. By 2026, the Bolt will likely vanish quietly from Yamaha's lineup, remembered only as a bike that looked the part but couldn't last the distance. Number 3. Triumph Rocket 3. The Triumph Rocket 3 is a monster of a motorcycle that turns heads everywhere it goes, but its massive size and high running costs make its long-term survival doubtful beyond 2026. With a starting price around $24,000, it's clearly aimed at riders chasing raw power over practicality. The styling is bold and muscular, yet it's a bike that demands constant effort to handle. In real-world riding, that weight and torque become more burden than thrill. Underneath, the Rocket 3 packs a 3-cylinder engine displacing a massive 2,500cc, producing torque figures no cruiser really needs. While that sounds impressive, it's also the reason most owners rarely ride it long-term. The heat, vibration, and sheer physical demand make it exhausting on daily rides. The clutch is heavy, cornering feels slow, and low-speed maneuvering takes real muscle. It's quick on the highway, sure, but it's overkill for anything short of wide, empty roads. Maintenance costs hit hard too. Routine servicing often exceeds $600 and replacement parts are expensive. Even resale isn't kind. Used Rocket 3 models have already started dropping below $17,000 despite low mileage, showing how few riders want to hold onto one. Overall, the Triumph Rocket 3 roars loud, rides heavy, and burns fast. An unforgettable giant that simply can't go the distance. Number 2. Indian Scout 60. The Indian Scout 60 was introduced as a more affordable gateway into the brand's cruiser lineup, but it's already showing signs that it won't make it far beyond 2026. At a starting price of around $11,000, it looks appealing to new riders, yet that lower cost comes with compromises. The design carries the same classic look as the larger Scout, but materials and finishing feel cheaper. Power comes from a 999cc V-twin that feels lively at first but lacks refinement. It runs hot, vibrates heavily at idle, and feels rough once you push past highway speeds. The 5-speed gearbox adds to the dated feel, making long rides tiring. On rough roads, the suspension bottoms out easily, and the short wheelbase makes stability a concern on high-speed curves. Many owners note that after about 25,000 miles, clutch and gearbox wear become noticeable, with repair costs that bite hard into ownership satisfaction. Maintenance is where the real problem lies. Routine servicing costs roughly $400, but parts and labor add up fast if anything serious breaks. Since it shares fewer components with the larger Scout, replacement availability isn't always reliable. Overall, the Indian Scout 60 may look the part, but by 2026, it'll be remembered as a shortcut that led nowhere. Number 1. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. The Harley-Davidson Sportster S was meant to revive the Sportster name with a modern edge, but it's already showing cracks that could end its run before 2026. Priced around $16,900, it sits in a tough spot, too costly for new riders and too stripped down for seasoned ones. The design is bold and muscular, but that low stance and thick tires make it uncomfortable for long rides. The seating position forces your legs forward and your arms up, which looks cool in photos but wears you down fast on real roads. The Revolution Max 1250cc engine is powerful, no doubt about it. It delivers quick acceleration and a loud punch, but it feels out of sync with the cruiser's laid-back nature. The throttle response is jumpy at low speeds, and the ride gets twitchy on uneven pavement. While it's lighter than Harley's big cruisers, it still tips the scale at over 500 pounds, and the heat coming off the motor in city traffic is harsh. Many owners report small electronic issues appearing within the first few thousand miles. Traction control errors, sensor warnings, and erratic idle, all adding to early reliability doubts. Maintenance and ownership costs hit hard too. Each major service costs around $450, and replacement parts often take time to arrive. Overall, the Harley-Davidson Sportster S burns bright but fades fast. A short-lived experiment that will likely vanish before 2026 leaves the showroom floor. And with this, we have reached the end of this video. Make sure to like it and subscribe the channel for future upcoming videos.